The prophet Elijah is considered one of the greatest prophets in the Holy Bible, chosen by God to deliver his word to the people. The name Elijah has its roots in Hebrew, derived from the biblical name Eliyahu, meaning the Lord is my God. While the Bible doesn't delve into his family background, we know he hailed from the city of Tishbe in Gilead. When we think of Elijah, our minds often recall his remarkable feats, such as confronting the prophets of Baal and calling down fire from heaven, praying for the widow's son to be resurrected, and being taken away by a chariot of fire. Yet, amidst these triumphs, there is a lesser-known chapter in Elijah's life, a moment of profound sadness that hints at a struggle with depression. Despite being a man of immense faith and courage, Elijah experienced a deep sense of despair. It was a time when he lost his strength and found no purpose in life, suggesting a battle with depression. His victories on Mount Carmel were overshadowed by a sudden loss of vigor, leaving him feeling alone, defeated, frightened, a failure, and contemplating the desire for death. Elijah's life reminds us that even the strongest and most faithful can face moments of darkness. His journey through depression serves as a poignant reminder that mental health struggles can affect anyone, regardless of their spiritual or personal strength. Now Ahab told Jezebel everything Elijah had done, and how he had killed all the prophets with the sword. So Jezebel sent a messenger to Elijah to say, "May the gods deal with me, be it ever so severely, if by this time tomorrow I do not make your life like that of one of them." Elijah was afraid and ran for his life. When he came to Beersheba in Judah, he left his servant there, while he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness. He came to a broom bush, sat down under it, and prayed that he might die. "I have had enough, Lord," he said. "Take my life. I am no better than my ancestors." Then he lay down under the bush and fell asleep. All at once an angel touched him and said, "Get up and eat." He looked around, and there by his head was some bread baked over hot coals, and a jar of water. He ate and drank and then lay down again. The angel of the Lord came back a second time and touched him and said, "Get up and eat, for the journey is too much for you." So he got up and ate and drank. Strengthened by that food, he traveled 40 days and 40 nights until he reached Horeb, the mountain of God. There he went into a cave and spent the night. 1 Kings 19:1-8. Here we can see Elijah's frustration. He faced the prophets of Baal and defeated them before the entire nation. Yet neither the king nor the people repented. We need to understand that God raised Elijah to deliver his word to Israel, but at that time, the people were deeply immersed in idolatry. Jezebel, who had married King Ahab, was devoted to Baal and Asherah, convincing the king and much of the people to worship them. It was a nation corrupted both spiritually and morally. After the defeat and death of the prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel, Jezebel vowed revenge against Elijah. Fearing for his life, Elijah decided to flee to the desert. Who could have imagined this scene? Right after Elijah's great victory on Mount Carmel over the prophets of Baal, the Lord's name was glorified, and fire fell from the sky. Elijah prayed for rain, and it rained again. But why? Because, despite being a great prophet, Elijah was human. He felt alone and, above all, believed he had failed. Even after all his accomplishments, the people remained unchanged, deeply saddening him. "I alone am left," Elijah said twice. How often in the Lord's work do we feel alone, with no one supporting us? It is precisely at this moment that the enemy strikes us down. The enemy attacks us in our moments of weakness, just as he did with Jesus in the desert. Jesus was hungry, and the enemy offered him bread, presenting himself as the quickest and easiest solution. It was the same with Elijah. "Ask for death, you don't deserve to live this way." This voice insisted in the prophet's mind, as it did with Moses, Jonah, and Job when they too asked for death in moments of great distress. When we feel defeated, the enemy claims victory. Elijah was also exhausted, running over 25 kilometers in his escape from King Ahab, an extraordinary feat. All these factors led him to that situation, but God did not abandon him. God sent him food through his angels and prepared a place for him to rest and find shelter, allowing him to regain his strength. Elijah was treated by God himself. When God speaks, everything transforms. The Lord appears to Elijah, and the word of the Lord came to him. "What are you doing here, Elijah?" He replied, "I have been very zealous for the Lord God Almighty. The Israelites have rejected your covenant, torn down your altars, and put your prophets to death with the sword. I am the only one left, and now they are trying to kill me too." The Lord said, "Go out and stand on the mountain in the presence of the Lord, for the Lord is about to pass by." Then a great and powerful wind tore the mountains apart and shattered the rocks before the Lord, but the Lord was not in the wind. After the wind there was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. After the earthquake came a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire came a gentle whisper. When Elijah heard it, he pulled his cloak over his face and went out and stood at the mouth of the cave. Then a voice said to him, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" He replied, "I have been very zealous for the Lord God Almighty. The Israelites have rejected your covenant, torn down your altars, and put your prophets to death with the sword. I am the only one left, and now they are trying to kill me too." The Lord said to him, "Go back the way you came, and go to the desert of Damascus. When you get there, anoint Hazael king over Aram. Also, anoint Jehu son of Nimshi king over Israel, and anoint Elisha son of Shaphat from Abel Mahalah to succeed you as prophet. Jehu will put to death any who escape the sword of Hazael, and Elisha will put to death any who escape the sword of Jehu. Yet I reserve 7,000 in Israel, all whose knees have not bowed down to Baal, and whose mouths have not kissed him." 1 Kings 19, verses 9 to 18. In the highs and lows of Elijah's life, we find a relatable story of triumph and despair. A man who, despite his closeness to the divine, grappled with the human experience of profound sadness. God heard his prayer, gave him a new mission, and also bestowed upon him a disciple and friend, Elisha. Elijah discovered that he wasn't alone. The Lord provided him with words of comfort. "I have reserved for myself 7,000 in Israel, all whose knees have not bowed down to Baal." In our moments of despair, when we feel there's no way out, we should remember this episode in Elijah's life. Even this great prophet had his moments of sadness, yet God heard his prayers and renewed his strength to continue in his ministry. Thank you for watching until the end. We hope you learned something about the Bible today. Help us by liking the video, subscribing to the channel and sharing. Until the next video, may the peace of God be with you.